Hello, Kelly Acheson at AStampAbove.com coming to you from Menasha, Wisconsin. Today on my Wait, What? Wednesday video tips, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about black ink. I've had several questions lately of my customers on which black ink to use, and they're a little confused by it all. And there's a lot to choose from, so I can see where they would be a little confused. Sometimes I'm confused. So today I've got 3 different types of ink pads here. We're going to be going over the finer details of StazOn ink pad, our Memento ink pad, and also the archival ink pads, which come in basic gray and basic black. So first of all, let's touch on StazOn. StazOn is one of those go-to ink pads. I've had this for years and years. I also have a re-inker that I use to ink it up when it starts getting a little dry. StazOn is a solvent ink pad, and it does have a firm foam pad in it, so it's very firm to the touch. StazOn is used for non-porous stamping. If you want to stamp on glass or tiles or window sheets, cellophane bags, this is your ink that will dry on those non-porous mediums. It's also great for watercoloring. StazOn is your go-to ink pad. When you use this ink, you won't get any bleeding of your images when you're watercoloring. Now, whether you're watercoloring with aqua painters, this is my favorite way to watercolor. I love aqua painters. When you get aqua painters, they come to a pack, so you get a large one and a smaller one. You can see here the difference between the brush tips, and then you can use it with your ink from the top of your ink pad, the lid. You can use it with watercolor crayons. How about that? So I absolutely love these. This is what I grab when I'm going to watercolor. We also have these blender pens, and these come 3 to a pack, and these are also for blending with ink or the watercolor crayons. They work great too, and they have a special liquid in them. I'm not a scientist, so I don't know what's in there. I never really cared. All I know is they work. You get 2 tips on them. Both ends are the same. It's just that you get 2 tips, so that's kind of nice. So StazOn ink you can use with aqua painters, blender pens, and you can use them with markers. So you can stamp and then color in your images without any bleeding going on of your black stamped image. One of the drawbacks with StazOn is that it stains your stamps, and lots of people freak out about that. To me, a stain stamp is a love stamp, and it was a good investment. Lots of people want their stamps to look pristine. I get that. Maybe. So when you're using StazOn ink, we also have a cleaner that's called StazOn Cleaner. Imagine that. And this has a nice little foam scrubby pad on it, and you just take it and scrub it on your stamp, and then you would wipe your stamp off in your Stamp and Scrub. Here we go. You put it on there, wipe it off in here. This also helps get any ink out from the little crevices on your stamps too. So that's what you do with the StazOn Cleaner. Now, StazOn Cleaner should only be used on red rubber stamps. It's not recommended for the photopolymer, which is the clear rubber. With that clear rubber, you're just going to use your Stampin' Mist. And if you don't have any of this, get yourself some, because this is what I use to clean all my stamps. And again, you just take this and you spray it in your cleaner, and you scrub it on one side that you have the spray in, and you dry it off on this side. And again, it helps get the ink out of all the little crevices. I really like this product, and mine looks like it's been through a war, because I've had it probably since the beginning. When I started stamping, this was one of the first things I got, was my Stampin' Scrub. And they're designed a little differently now, but they still do the same thing. They still close, they still have the pads in them. Love this thing. So if you don't have a stamp cleaner, I highly recommend it. This and Stampin' Mist. This also conditions your rubber stamps, so it keeps them in good shape too. All right, so we've talked about Acheson and what a wonderful product this is. If you're a stamper, you need a black Acheson pad, okay? You just do. Next, we're going to talk about Memento ink. Now, Memento ink is, again, it's a dye ink. It also has a fabric pad, which is very firm. It cleans off your stamps very nicely. You don't have any staining from Memento ink. You can also use it with alcohol-based products, like any alcohol-based markers, because it will not bleed. So that's pretty cool. And while it's not really considered to be waterproof like our Acheson ink pad, it will dry when you stamp it on vellum. If you stamp on vellum and you let it dry for a minute or so, it will dry. So Acheson also the one you want to use for vellum because it dries on everything. Memento is my go-to black ink pad for stamping words, for stamping things that don't necessarily need to be colored in. That's what I use this for, and it's easy cleanup. And then we have our archival pads. Now, these come in basic gray and basic black, and they are a permanent ink, so that makes them the obvious choice for watercoloring techniques too. They ink up very evenly on your stamps, and they stamp really nice. They are acid-free. They have a flip top for upside down storage, so this is kind of a lot different than these types of ink pads. These ink pads, you want to store these on your shelves or in your bins upside down. But with the flip top, when it's right side up, the pad is upside down, so that keeps your ink at the top of the pad and ready for use. These can all be re-inked with ink refills, which we sell, Acheson, Memento, and Archival Black ink refills. This is the best choice for fine line stamps and little words. It seems to stamp even and give you a good crisp image. This will also dry on vellum with about a minute of drying time. This ink is a little more permanent, so again, you want to use the Stamp and Mist to clean stamps when you're stamping with the archival ink pads. This ink can also be used with the aqua painters, the blender pens, and also your markers. So it's a pretty good ink too. So I hope that's answered some questions that you may have had about which black ink to use for what. I would say that 90% of the time when I'm stamping, I use the Memento. When I'm going to watercolor, I choose the Acheson. And for really crisp, detailed stamps, if I'm stamping with black, I like to use the archival ink. So there you go. This is, pretty much the basics of what you need in black ink pads in your Stampin' Stash. So thanks for joining me today. If you don't have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I would love to earn your business. You can pop me an email at kelly@astampabove.com. You can also check out my blog, astampabove.com. Have fun stamping and add a little sparkle to someone's day and send them a card.